So, Navarre, you want to call the meeting to order?
Okay. I don't know what the formal
Well
formal
done.
wording for that is, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and get started.
Thank you. I have a motion to conduct an electronic meeting. I move that the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water Conservation District Climate Committee certify that the nature of the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, as declared by the Governor of Virginia, makes it impracticable or unsafe for the committee to assemble in a single physical location. And further, that the purpose of the meeting, including all agenda items as reflected in the meeting's prepared agenda, is to transact or discuss business that is statutorily required or that is necessary to continue operations of the committee and the discharge of the committee's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities.
Okay. And do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay. And then we have to do a roll call vote since we're virtual. So I think Amy and Ann don't get to vote. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just the three of us.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I guess I'll start with you, Julie,
Aye.
Kim, and I say aye as well.
Wonderful.
And I guess for in the event someone's actually watching this, Sandra is not from our district, so she doesn't get to vote either.
And Sandra, I'm new. Will you tell me briefly about yourself?
I'm chair of the Natural Bridge Soil and Water Conservation District.
Wonderful.
And, when the legislative committee met, Navarre spoke up on this issue, and I was very interested and very enthusiastic about supporting it. And we've communicated since then. And I thank you for letting me come to your meeting. This is great.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for your support.
See what we can do.
Yeah.
I am going to stay muted as long as the for some reason it's a very loud machine that is mowing the grass outside. So when they finish, I'll come back. Or if I need to talk, I'll unmute.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's see. I managed to not send out the agenda beforehand because I'm a little discombobulated right now. Let's see if I can figure out how to share my screen and put that up. Okay, let me know if that works.
Great.
Okay. So this is like halfway through the document. The stuff at the top is just the Zoom information because in theory I was sending this ahead of time and managed to forget. So okay, so we're good on the remote meeting. For anyone who wasn't there, so there was the state board meeting in I think it was October, where the legislative committee had previously approved basically the wish list for our legislative agenda, and it was 7 items, and healthy soils was the 7th item on the list, and basically it got bumped off during that meeting to keep things short. And Sandra was there. Were you there, Kim? I can't remember. Kim's on mute, but
Yes, I was.
okay. So basically the legislative committee went to move ahead a lot of this, basically everything that was on our wish list, a little bit rejiggered from what we did for Area 2, which includes Sandra's district. And then we went to the state board and we'll just say that the healthy soils didn't end up on there without pointing fingers or anything. Not that I'm sore about it or anything. So going forward, we can reintroduce an item to the legislative agenda in December. I think it's kind of an uphill battle to do so. the advantage of bringing it up, even if we don't get it moved back. So I guess as part of that, healthy soils is in the policy book now, or maybe Amy or Anne can correct me on this. I think that might actually, I'm not sure if that's official yet or if that's something that will get approved. I can't remember exactly what the procedures for that are. But basically, healthy soils is something we can lobby on, but it's not on our top however many list. But talking about it at the December meeting, even if we don't get it pushed to the legislative agenda officially, at least more people from across the state will know that it is something that we do support. And if it is something they're interested in, they can talk to their delegates or senators about.
So I think the better organized and more energy we put into it, the more luck we're going to have.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of thoughts. We could ask Sally Hudson, is it? Sally?
Mhm.
To send a letter. We could draft it for her, to the chairman of the district and ask that they consider putting it on their agenda. We could talk with, I can't remember her name, at Virginia Soil Health Coalition. And maybe she could write a letter to the chairman, but also to all the chairmen of the various soil conservation districts. You know, getting a bunch of letters out is not a lot of work, but what we're getting out is information and making a case. And I'm not convinced that that happened particularly well at the regional meeting.
Yeah, no, I think there were definitely places we could have been better organized going into that. So I guess I talked with Jake Gold who's Sally Hudson's chief of staff. I can't remember if it was yesterday or Monday. But I talked to him. He said that for this upcoming General Assembly session, he wasn't sure if, so I wasn't aware of this. So I learned a lot. So in the upcoming session, it's a shorter session. And at least delegates, I'm not sure about senators, are restricted to only 15 pieces of legislation each.
Yeah.
So he was saying that he wasn't sure if they had something specifically, but that we should be talking. He encouraged, because I had said we were going to try to reach out to DEQ, and he said we should definitely talk to them to see if they had any legislation that was coming up that would be relevant. He said that they had, since Sally is on the Agriculture Committee, she also had, they'd be glad to get us in touch with the chairman of the Agricultural Committee for the House and see if anybody has anything that looks like it might be something we could either push through on its own or slide in as part of something bigger if someone has a soil health type thing. It's not like, I'm still learning about how Virginia works, but it sounds like it's similar to Missouri, where I came from, where if a bill goes through, any amendments or things like that will have to be germane to the topic at hand. So you can tack healthy soils onto a traffic bill. But if you had something on soil health or soil erosion, things like that, you'd probably tack it on there. And it's kind of up to the people in the committees as to whether they think that's actually germane or not. But if it seems pretty closely aligned to something in a bill, then we could probably tack it in with something else, which is probably a better path forward if we were going to get something through this coming year.
So Sally is basically saying that her dance ticket is full.
Yeah, pretty much. So I didn't talk to her directly, but I did talk to her chief of staff. And yeah, I think they're both interested in doing healthy soils stuff. Just that since they have such a tight restriction on legislation, they said they weren't sure they would have anything where it could slot in right now. But that they are interested in helping us get connections to people who might have bills where we could plug it in.
Okay,
So Jake,
I'm happy
sorry.
to track down the chairman of the House Ag Committee
Yeah, they
Uh,
said that if we wanted to contact their office, they have his information and could introduce us. Um, so I don't know. And I think you said, I don't know what the situation is in the Senate, but I think you said that you've talked with Senator Deeds before as well, Kim.
Yeah, that was last year.
Okay.
And I'm happy to track him down and talk to him again. But, you know, he comes from a more rural area where there's more agriculture, and he may have, um, you know, other things on his agenda that he would like to put out there. He's, as you know, very big on mental health issues because of his son.
Hmm.
But I can do a little bit of work on that.
Yeah, so I think,
Sandra here. I can also talk to Senator Deeds, and our delegate is Ronnie Campbell, and I will see if he might be interested in helping us out, even though he's not on one of the committees that would help. And I wonder also about Senator, the fellow up in the Winchester area, Harrisonburg area. He's very active, particularly on the budget committee. Emmett Hanger. And I can talk to him as well, even though he's not mine, and we've had talks in the past. When we settle on what we want actually to put out, I'll be glad to talk to those people. Oh, and also, Area 1, it has a meeting, I think on the 12th of November, and so the 6 districts that are involved there, I thought I could put that on the agenda for Area 1 in their meeting, so that will get out in that way for us over the mountain.
okay, are you in Area 1 then? Okay.
And we're in Area 2, and it is on the Area 2 agenda, correct?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because I'm new, if you could just remind me of our primary ask at this point. It's not a money ask, it's just a recognition that.
Yeah, so the bill we wrote is based on one that's, and I mean, once it gets to the House or the Senate, it would probably get mutated. But the bill we wrote is basically a slight rewording just because our departments are a little different. Maryland passed a bill in 2017 to start a program up there. But the main idea of it is to basically try to start making connections and maybe some wording changes to things that we're already doing, like cover crops and riparian buffers and all that fun. Basically, pretty much all the practices that the district does, at least agriculture-wise, but I think even some of the urban practices have co-benefits to carbon sequestration as well as all of your reduced inputs into your waterways. So we're just trying to change that wording a little bit, and ideally that'll open up a door to future funding, either through the RGGI stuff or some other funding mechanisms that we might not have access to right now that would help farmers basically get money to help promote those carbon sequestration goals. And also, I believe, I don't think it made it through, but there was a bill at the congressional level to try to start doing that sort of stuff. So also, if we start working on it at the state level, we'll be in a better position to help implement anything that does come through at a higher level.
Just as a follow-up on that, Navar, there's a group called the Ecosystem Services Market Consortium. It's primarily in the Midwest area. Have you looked into that? It's geared toward farming, and it is there are 4 senators that have it on their agenda for the coming session.
Okay, I hadn't heard of that one.
I'll send that link to you and to distribute, because it's very interesting, and the fact that it's geared toward farming and not, the RGGI is pervasive, but this is for farmers, and they're well organized. It's pretty impressive. So I'll send that link to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, so I think like Kim was talking about, I think the main thing is kind of identifying which is kind of like this next huge part of the agenda was basically just who can we have, like who do we know and who do we need to know to be able to say, okay, there's enough support for this to move it back into the agenda. Or if not, at least where can we get enough support with other agencies and organizations to try to push something through, or at least get the conversation started at the General Assembly this year. And like, I'm optimistically we could do something this year, but I also know it's legislation, so that's like, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic here. But if we don't start having the conversation, then we don't get anywhere. So that's my stance anyway.
Well, I think everyone's in agreement with you, Navyar. Navar. There we go. Well, I will contact the chairman of the House Ag Committee, and I would like someone to step up, if they would, and kind of pull together a one-pager that maybe Sandra and Tom, as chairs, could send to the other chairs of the various districts and encourage them, make them aware of what we're doing and encourage them to support it. And so the cover letter would, kind of cover, we would like to see this happen, but we need to talk about the advantages to the farmers in that cover letter as well. That is the key for getting energy behind this. And then the one pager would be the kind of bullet points about what are healthy soils, what does it mean, what are the implications, why are we doing it, kind of just facts without a lot of elaboration. That's my thought, but I'm certainly open to whatever anybody else wants to work on.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I think he's not here to defend himself, but Joe's been pretty good about, I think, making that connection between what healthy soils is and how it's advantageous to farmers. So I might send him an email and see if he either wants to work on the one pager or if I can draft something and have him fill in the blanks.
Well, I'll make a motion that Joe be appointed by the Climate Committee to draft at least one of the two documents. Do I have a second? Oh, come on, have fun with this.
I would.
I'm not going to second that, because then the next time I miss a meeting, who knows what I'll land in my lap.
I will suggest, Kim, that what you should do is, what we should do is create something in Google Docs, because then you can collaboratively edit it. And it'd be a good question for the district. Do we have a district Google Docs account that we could put that sort of thing under? That way, if for any reason there's any FOIA request or anything related to that would be out there for posterity.
And Amy?
I think that's more of an Amy question. We do have one, but I can't answer the question on the FOIA part or how we share that information. I'm not much of a Google Docs person, only because we have Microsoft Office, but staff does use it, but I don't know about the FOIA part.
We could look into, Google has something called Google for Government. That's like Google Docs, but it's oriented specifically for organizations like ours. There's a cost to it, so it might be something worth looking into the more we're doing this kind of, especially if we stay virtual, just in a much better way and easier way to share documents.
Because everybody has a organizational email address, there's also OneDrive through Microsoft if you were comfortable working with shared files that way.
Good to know. Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's
I'm glad that's an option, but in general, having some familiarity with Microsoft's platform and products, they're not great.
So I do want to second Kim's suggestion that we prepare or put together some sort of one pager. I'm curious what a timeline would have to be pretty tight if the District 1 and 2 meetings are happening next week. Do you envision having it done by then, Kim, or is this something that would happen at some point later this fall?
Okay, well, I think the sooner the better. But your tone indicated you thought that maybe I would draft it.
Well, I think we do. I don't think we can nominate Joe without his permission. I do think it's something we should work on jointly. I'm happy to, you know, as Navarre, if Navarre wants to put together an outline and then we all fill in, we can work from there.
Yeah, I can put together the bones of something.
Great.
And I can probably just start it. If we don't have I can start it in my personal Drive account for now, and then we can move it over at some point if we have something more institutional.
Well, what you can do, Navarre, is if you create it in your personal account, but then you share it with the rest of us at our district, well, actually share it with the rest of us and yourself at your district email, then it will be in the public record.
Okay.
So that's how I would do it.
Okay,
Okay.
well, that's a good beginning.
I'm sorry, I have to go in about 2 minutes. I have another meeting at 1:30. I can't miss. So if you want to, yeah, I will just look forward for an email from you, Navarre, then of when it's time to start putting some information into a document. And then I assume you guys will continue to sort of talk about strategy and who to talk to. And, but, you know, I think really you are right. It's going to be a really tight session this year. They still have, you know, work left over from the special session. They're picking back up again. They got so flooded with bills last time around. They did limit everybody on the number that they can bring in. So you know, laying the groundwork this time around and building a coalition around this and really kind of taking the opportunity to be, you know, super informative and bring other environmental groups behind us and other farm groups behind us. It doesn't mean we shouldn't aim for something this session. And I'm also, the Virginia Conservation Network will come out with their briefing book soon. There may be some pieces in there where this can be, you know, the briefing book's done, but this can be added to the message that some of those groups are carrying. Not to say we can't get it done, but just to say to really seize the opportunity to have an educational mission around this.
Well, I think the other avenue for this too is if we see other climate change legislation moving through the process, we could tack it on to that climate change legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I have heard about some rumblings of things, but I don't know if anything's materialized yet. Julie probably knows better than I do. But,
most of it are tiny little tweaks on things that, you know, that got passed in the Clean Economy Act, which again is still more sort of utility focused. I don't think I think we haven't done as much as we will do around other kinds of climate things outside of utilities. So I'm excited about, you know, being at the forefront of that with these kinds of healthy soils initiatives.
I need just a question. I find the farmers here in my area are more open to talking about carbon sequestration than they are to climate change. And I think the wording somehow, you know, shuts off some people if we say climate change. Global warming even works a little bit better. What have y'all found in your area?
yeah, that was one of the reasons when we wrote the bill the way we did. We mentioned carbon sequestration, but I don't think the word climate is even in the bill that we wrote. And that might be partially from our own thoughts. And I think Maryland might have done the same thing, just because climate change has become a politicized word, even though it's happening, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to leave you all.
okay.
Have a great
Thanks,
afternoon.
Julie.
Thanks so much.
See you, Julie.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I think so I just kind of threw out a list here, and Anne sent me an email a while back with, I think, more people than are here on this list. So I'll try to, maybe we can figure out how to disseminate that to everyone, as well as far as people we want to contact. But so, Anne, were you saying that we might talk to Carrie about talking to Robert Shoemaker at VCE? Because I think you said she might know him.
Yes, well, yeah, and I've met him once or twice for trainings, but Carrie has worked with him more extensively on some equine programs. So I do think that she would be a good person to reach out and make that connection. Sandra, Carrie is one of our board members and is our extension agent in Albemarle County, but she's also on our board. And so obviously she would have a connection with Robert from that. And then also Carrie had expressed an interest in the climate work that the county of Albemarle is doing. So I don't think Carrie's, anything to do with Healthy Souls. I think she's interested. She's just already on a number of committees, I guess. And so she hadn't signed up to be on this one specifically, but I think she'd be more than happy to help make that connection. I did try reaching out to Emily Francis since in the last week, but I just, with my schedule and my deadlines and things going on, we have not been able to connect. She is a consultant that was hired to help with the Healthy Soils, the Virginia Healthy Soils Coalition, in hiring a staff person, which my understanding is they should be getting close to hiring someone. If they do hire someone, then this in large part will probably be part of their job. Not necessarily legislation per se, but certainly connecting, organizing all these groups, getting who the partners are, who the players are, kind of put together. Emily already has a pretty good idea of who a solid list would be. But she was just sort of hired as a consultant, and I don't know for how long, whether it's like until they find a permanent person or whether she's going to stay on. I imagine she'll stay on in some kind of consulting role. So she's a really good resource. I certainly could reach out to her. I do think that there is resistance for the legislative piece, primarily because there just seems to be this thought that it can't be done without money. And I think unless we make a really clear statement in your 1-pager or your 2-pager how this is not going to ask for money, then they're just going to that. Daryl Glover was on the phone call, and I think even Russ Baxter was on one of the legislative calls. They're both obviously with DCR, and they made it very clear that, DCR does not have funding to develop this kind of a program. And so, again, I think it's not necessarily creating a new program. It's more just documenting the co-benefit that they're already doing with the other work that we do. That's a part of it. It doesn't mean in the long run there might be an interest in some funding to participate in that third-party certification, similar to the federal legislation, which is going to set up NRCS, our partner, NR's Natural Resource Conservation Service, to be third-party certifiers. And, that's great in some areas, but I think that maybe conservation districts could be part of that solution to do the third party for certification, but that's further down the road. But I want to keep that in the back of our mind. As of right now, the NACD grant we are working on, the reason we got it is because NRCS staff doesn't have the capacity to keep up with their current workload. And so we got the NACD grant in order to help NRCS with their workload for the things we kind of already do. And so this could easily turn into, where districts are able to assist NRCS if they do become the federal third-party certifiers. So there's a lot of reasons, I think, for us to be involved, but I don't know that, anyway, I don't know why Daryl and Russ are convinced that money has to be involved. I mean, it might take a little bit of staff time, but on someone like Robert Shoemaker's, maybe to just help document what we're already doing. But see, I think DEQ is already doing it. I sent you that, I'm pretty sure I sent at least the TJ folks, that spreadsheet that James Martin put together that analyzes comment. Well, so it's already being documented, and they're already starting to do it. So, I guess the question is just making sure it's clear that, could this be a resolution? I'm not, Julie's not on the phone. Kim, maybe you know. Navarre, I don't know as much about Virginia legislative process either, but, could this be some sort of like legislative resolution that just says, we acknowledge that healthy souls are important and our programs are, we're already working on a number of programs that reflect our our dedication to healthy soils, and here are the list of programs that are already underway.
Yeah, this is Sandra. I've thought about this too in that way, in that there are so many BMPs that would just fit naturally into the Healthy Soils program. And it could be that something similar to PrEP, which is built around water, that this could be, Healthy Soils could be built around Healthy Soils, and the BMPs under a Healthy Soils program would be promoted in some way that makes it attractive for the farmers to participate in that focus.
What do I do?
Does that, do you think something like that would, or a suggestion like that might fit into
Okay, so when I'm done,
maybe a resolution or amendment or something in that direction?
I guess.
Mainly to speed it along, because we do have the BMPs, and eventually it would be, if a farmer is going to participate or do the things that are involved in a BMP, that would be advantageous to him if he went through a Healthy Soils program, then that might be enough to satisfy DCR's concerns. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think, are you saying some sort of training like that, or?
I don't know that there would even need to be extra training to go through the BMP design and process and technical requirements, which our staff is already doing. It would be more a matter of focusing on soil. Most of the programs in the BMPs are on water. The focus is on water. Healthy Soils, obviously, I mean, they're so intertwined. I don't know how you could possibly separate them, but by having the Healthy Soils program, you concentrate on protecting the water, obviously. It retains moisture better. It helps the runoff problems, so it's some kind of incentive maybe for a farmer to work through a Healthy Soils program would be, I think, a way to go without it costing a great deal.
Okay, so just maybe like still the same stuff we're already doing, but a focus change.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like you said, I feel like we are soil and water conservation districts, but I feel like most of the time we're only talking about water.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I'm kind of new. I've only been here a year or so, but I feel like most of the time we're talking about water, which is still, like, I'm not trying to say it's not important, but I feel like soil is lonely over here in the corner without anyone talking about it.
I think farmers would like to have something that breaks them out of this sort of chemical fertilizer, soybean, corn rotation, and then crop insurance when it fails. It's just a poor model for the farmers here, anyway.
Yeah, the healthy soils is almost like an active form of crop insurance, maybe, but I don't know if that's the best way to communicate that, but I feel like it makes things more robust. But yeah, so I guess as far as who wants to contact whom, I know, Sandra, you said you were gonna try to get some healthy soils stuff on the Area 1 meeting. And then also, I think you said you knew somebody in Harrisonburg you were gonna talk to.
Yeah, I'll be the Senator Deeds and Senator Heiner. Both of them are from this area.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll include you on the one pager we're working on.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll need that.
I don't know how we can kind of work in the document and figure out how we want to break up sections or whatnot, but and then Kim, I don't know if you wanted to reach out to Delegate Hudson's office first. I know they said that they had the contact info for the head of the Agriculture Committee.
I can track him down. I'll contact Hudson's office and see if they can do some paving the way for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
and feel free to tell them I sent you if you want, since I just talked to them.
Okay.
Do we know what the deadline is for I know they usually have a deadline for introducing legislation. Do you know what it is?
I do not know off the top of my
I think
head.
it's in January.
Is it? Okay. Usually it's.
I'm not positive.
Okay.
We could Google that real quick.
Let's see. And then I'm going to talk to Joe because I think he'll know better. And May will want to talk to Mark about, I feel like Farm Bureau here in Virginia said something about healthy soils recently, but not necessarily legislation-wise in one of their newsletters. I don't know if you remember, Anne. I feel like someone forwarded it to me, but I can't remember who it was.
Tell me again the what?
I feel like Farm Bureau in Virginia had a newsletter or something talking about healthy soils recently.
I think you're right. And I think it was talking about the federal, I think they were talking about the federal legislation because it documented all of those supporting agricultural industries, which lists, like dozens and dozens of them. And so, and I think they've had a change of tune, if you will. A year ago, Kim, when you and I were talking, the Farm Bureau, I do not believe was necessarily on board, but this whole federal piece, which I think is really important to highlight in the one pager, that I think that really should take up like a half a page because there are just so many critical elements of that are bipartisan and supported nationwide. That might help with that any kind of local concern about using the word climate. And actually, I can't remember. I think they do use the word climate. For us, we're talking about healthy soils.
Yeah.
Climate will be a piece of it. But yeah, no, I think you're right. And it might be us just reaching out. We could probably, I can't say in my thousands of emails anymore that I can find anything. But if I can't find it in an email, then I could probably reach out to the Farm Bureau and see if I could get a copy of it or if it's on their website. I'll look right now while we're talking to see if it's on their website.
And then, yeah, I didn't know if there would be a way, because Mark's our interface with Farm Bureau, right?
On our board, he is. Martha Moore is the the lady that we work with quite regularly on a number of ag issues if she
Okay.
supports it. But Mark can be a conduit to Martha, or we should always include Mark because he is on our board.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see if we can find that newsletter thing and then try to see, talk with Mark and Martha and see what the State Farm Bureau has been hearing or talking about with regard to things. And then you said you knew the consultant, at least for the Soil Health Coalition, and
Yes, and they'll be hiring someone. And Tim and I spoke with some of their funders last year as well. A lady by the name of Ann Mills, who used to work for the USDA as an NRCS under the Obama administration for about 7.5 years, I think, or 8 years. She's very influential. She's very supportive of the federal Healthy Soil Program. I mean, if you all have never had a chance to look at the federal soil health and documentation, outreach, I mean, it's been marketed and branded and packaged. They had like the Year of the Healthy Soil. I mean, the federal government spent lots and lots and lots of time and energy and money on a Healthy Soils program years ago, and I believe it was under Ann Mills's direction or under her watch, and it's just fantastic. I mean, they've done massive amounts of things. So when we say Healthy Soils, keep in mind a lot of people might be like, we already know about this. It's nothing new, and of course it isn't anything new. It's just that we want to make sure that it's getting the recognition in a way that water quality gets recognition in our programs.
Mhm.
It's not that it's anything new. And again, we've all been doing it. That's most all of our water quality efforts have to do with, or many of them do have to do with healthy soils. So it isn't new. And it's just, I'm not really sure why there's a resistance at the state to just embrace the terminology and bring it into the front.
I think some of it too, and maybe, I don't know if there's anything going on with the Chesapeake legislatively this year, but with the WIP 3 stuff, from what I remember from the presentations at last year's meeting, I think we're meeting nitrogen and phosphorus, but not sediments going into the bay.
No, it's the other way around.
It's the other way around? Okay.
Well, and I don't know that we're meeting sediment. They just decided to focus on nitrogen and phosphorus.
I think Navarre is right, actually, that we're not meeting sediment goals.
Because I was
But the
thinking as a
but the WIP is focused on nitrogen and phosphorus. The WIP the WIP dropped sediment. And there were a number of us that raised that issue during several of the WIP meetings. And James Davis Martin from DEQ just said that's the direction they were headed. So I don't know that it means sediment's not important. It's just that for the WIP goals, they decided to focus on phosphorus and nitrogen.
Okay, because I feel like when the Chesapeake Foundation was presenting last year, I feel like they said Virginia was meeting or close to meeting our nitrogen and phosphorus, but we're behind on sediment, or some of the other states were like
I don't know.
a disaster like Pennsylvania, but
well, if you
I'll
look
grab
in
some.
you can look in our WIP document, and that's where I'm going to send you guys the USDA NRCS Healthy Soils page, just so you can see that NRCS has spent quite a bit of money on soil health is what they call it.
Please include me, Ann. I would like to see that also.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I've got your email, Sandra.
Okay. There is an effort right now from the Soil and Water Control Board that has been instructed to bring numeric standards to sediment, and they are having a very slow process I think they've only had one meeting, and there will be another one probably in January to decide whether or not we can adopt a numeric standard, or we will have, or whether to go along with the narrative standard that we have right now, which depends on bid 50 mostly. So that's, as far as I know, that's where it's sitting at this point.
Yeah, you said that, which board was that again? Sorry.
You're talking-
Are you
Which
talking
board?
to Sandra?
Yeah, Sandra. Which board did you say that was? Sorry.
Well, I forget who instructed them, but I think it was a legislative thing. It was instructed the state water control board to develop a numeric standard for sediment. And so the board did get together, or they asked DEQ to get together a board, a committee to decide how to go about that. And I can send anybody that's interested in joining that group the link or the information for when the next meeting is. They took 18 months and they didn't get anywhere. And so the State Water Control Board sort of chastised them and said to go back and come back with a recommendation. Is where it stood. So they're going to try again. So I think they had trouble getting, first of all, people to be involved in it. And then they had trouble with the fact that it's all over the place. There are states, different states are doing different things. It's hard. I can sympathize with them. It's hard. It's hard to know which way to go. And but anyway, if anyone's interested, let me know and I'll send you the link.
Yeah, feel free to send that to me. I'll at least take a look at it. I don't know
Yeah.
whether I have time to add another thing
I
on my
know.
plate, but
That's the problem.
at least I'll know what's going on. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to check.
What was that, Kim?
I'm going to have to check out. I've got to grab something to eat before the damn committee meeting.
Okay.
All right, so thank you all for your help. And what I have on my list is trying to find out what other people may have pending before the General Assembly as it relates to healthy soils.
Right.
All right, thank you,
Sounds
folks.
good. Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. I guess, is there anything else? I think the main thing is making connections and then also making this one pager and kind of melding things together from that. But
The one pager will help a great deal with contacting people. Yes.
okay, so I'll try to get an outline up either this evening or early tomorrow. Yeah, because I have a couple more meetings this afternoon, but hopefully I'll have a chance to work on it tonight, but early tomorrow at the latest, hopefully. And then I'll send that link out to everybody and we can kind of start figuring out how we want to fill that out, and hopefully, like Kim said, sooner better than later, but hopefully not half-baked. So I guess, does anybody have anything else before we adjourn? I guess we probably need a motion to adjourn, do we? I guess we already lost a couple people, so I don't know if we even, I don't know what a quorum is for the committee, so.
You can just make a motion to adjourn, and you and Lonnie can say aye.
Okay.
Say the time, at 1:54 or whatever.
Okay. Well, can I make a motion, or does Lonnie? I guess Lonnie might have to do it since I'm the chair.
I'll make a motion to, I think either one could, but I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. I'll second that. And I'll vote aye and then I'll ask Lonnie.
Aye.
There you go. You did it. Woohoo.
Okay, we survived.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Well-
coming, Sandra. We'll keep you on the loop with what's happening. So,
Wonderful, thank you.
Oh, and by the way, Navarro, if you're still there, you should check out
Yeah.
Ken Burns' documentary on the Great Dust Bowl. It
Okay.
explains the history of the soil and water conservation districts, and particularly where that soil part comes from. So your comment about why isn't there more discussion about soil? Originally, I'd say soil was the primary reason that conservation districts. were
Yeah, it was.
formed. Anyway, have a nice day.
Okay. Thanks, Lonnie. Thanks,
Mhm.
Sandra. Thanks, Ann and Amy.